would you like me to park your car?
Okay, I know you're probably a little bit confused from that clip. That was Nathan Fielder, comedian and host of the shows Nathan For You and The Rehearsal. In the episode leading up to this clip, Nathan was attempting to help out a struggling Asian nail salon by setting up a chauffeur service for them. In an effort to combat a certain stereotype, he hired an Asian stunt driver to drive the cars. In order to make the whole thing seem more authentic, he asked her to do a stereotypical Asian accent when speaking to customers. She asks him what that would even sound like, and after a little back and forth, he gives in and shows her.
Oh, would you like me to park your car?
Next, I'm going to show you 2 more clips of Fielder, but this time I want you to pay attention and really try to pinpoint the common elements present in each that make them funny.
Somewhat enjoyable. I gave him some rotting food and even a ladybug in case he wanted something to have sex with. And then once he's trapped at sea, teach him a lesson he'll never forget.
Whoa!
Of course, you could have come up with any elements shared across these clips and you'd probably be right, since, after all, comedy is subjective. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but for me, the common threads connecting almost all of Nathan's jokes is his unflinching commitment to the bit, combined with his ability to juxtapose monotony with absurdity. Obviously, there's his creativity too, but that's not really something we can learn from because that's something that's internal and unique to everybody. I'm not saying these are the only reasons why Nathan's style of comedy is so effective. Like, I know I'm the last person that should be giving comedic advice, but I am saying that understanding these two is a way we can learn something from how Fielder structures his style of comedy. Nathan's commitment to the bit, including his unwillingness to break character, is, in my opinion, one of the 2 main catalysts for why he's so funny. He's always committed to escalating the situation. While most of the time, the premise of the episode will be so crazy on its own that it's funny.
The plan? Use balloons to help the overweight ride horses.
But even when it's not, Fielder can escalate even the most inconsequential jokes to the point of absolute absurdity. For instance, when he finds out an LA private detective used to do modeling in an offhand remark, Nathan puts the entire premise of the episode on hold to find the exact magazines he appeared in, eventually discovering that this guy was a pornographic model. And when he presents these findings to the private detective, the reaction is priceless.
You have some strength in your penis, blah, 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 blah.
But it wasn't only Brian's penis that was soft that day.
In making people feel uncomfortable, they behave more like how they really are, and Fielder is an absolute expert at extracting comedy out of honesty and especially awkwardness.
Married her ex-boyfriend, and I'm in LA training dogs.
Oh crap.
Fielder constantly staying in character is another way he commits to the bit. No matter how absurd the things he's saying or the things being said to him are, he almost always keeps in character. I mean, he's so committed that he spent 2 whole years becoming a certified 737 pilot just for a joke. And it makes the moments when he does break character or show real emotion even funnier because of how rare it is for him to do so.
Eating poo is actually a satanic ritual.
No.
She's a Jew about it, pretty much. If and you know how the Jews are, kind of thing. She just pain pinches, and
Maybe you should make a list for me of all the things that are satanic, so that I know when I'm doing.
Never forget that scarcity creates value in anything, and comedy is no different. However, this indifferent and by all means autistic character Nathan is portraying only really works when there's something crazy happening for his dull personality to contrast against. Either an insane comment that Nathan is saying in his iconic emotionless tone, or an absurd external event that is contrasted with Nathan's reaction. And this is where the aspect of juxtaposition comes in.
Do not go in there! Woo! Yikes!
As a visual representation of this phenomenon, let's have a graph with level of absurdity on the y-axis and time elapsed on the x-axis. In a regular comedy skit like SNL or I Think You Should Leave, it looks a little something like this, with absurdity constantly building up throughout the course of the skit until the end when it either plummets or skyrockets, which is the payoff. However, within each sequence of a Nathan Fielder show, the graph makes this shape instead. Whoa. When something crazy happens in the show, the energy is up here.
Get out! Get out! Get out in the name of Jesus Christ!
But when we pan to Nathan or someone else not caring about it, the energy is brought all the way down here. And then Nathan says something crazy in a monotone voice, so it's brought back up here. And then we pan back to the other person looking uninterested or not understanding him, so it's brought back down here. And you get it.
Israel warned those civilians that there was going to be a bombing.
All these sudden changes in energy contribute to comedy. However, While this style of comedy can be really effective, when utilized improperly, it can lead to a dull and boring atmosphere, the worst case scenario in comedy. Nathan has taken a long time to master his style, and along the way, there have undoubtedly been some growing pains with many misses. Just as an example of his style failing, there's been some old clips of Nathan circulating online from when he was a member of a Canadian comedy show called 22 Minutes. And here, the clips just aren't as funny because the people he interviews are just normal people, and Nathan doesn't say or do anything too crazy to them. So Nathan bringing down the energy only serves to make it boring, since there isn't anything for that monotony to play off of. In other words, the energy from the interview is already down here, so when Nathan makes a dry remark, it has nothing to be juxtaposed against, leading to monotony for its own sake.
We're with a Canadian comedy show.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. So, kind of here to make fun.
The only part of this interview that got a laugh out of me is at the end when Nathan stumbles upon Alec Baldwin's real-life brother, who seriously threatens to punch him in the teeth, and then leaves abruptly.
And you can sue me and do all that, but you'll have stitches and no teeth, so it's up to you.
Nathan's emotionless and somewhat relatable reaction to this is really what got me. Even in Nathan For You, when there is an instance of a regular, awkward conversation, it is always contrasted with an absurd moment either before or afterwards. Also, the laugh track in 22 Minutes is not doing him any favors.
Oh yeah, I'm not really interested in an MP3 player.
No.
His style of comedy works best when the audience feels like they're in the room with him, and the laugh track breaks that immersion. Just as a general rule, most comedy works best when the audience thinks they're in on the joke, because it feels more personal and allows the audience to lower their guard and become more comfortable. And when the audience feels comfortable, there's a sense of comfortableness that can be broken with a joke. I hope that all made sense. A comedian like Tim Robinson also makes you feel uncomfortable, but that's different than what Nathan does, because Tim Robinson always makes the uncomfortable character as pathetic and unrelatable as humanly possible. So the audience can be emotionally detached while still being able to appreciate the absurdity at play. With Nathan Fielder, however, he almost relies on the relatability factor. It's also way easier for the audience to suspend their disbelief because of the fact that these are real people, not actors. Nathan is the only person here playing a character, and he's so good at acting that there are people who don't even realize he is. So when the Bill Gates impersonator makes a random dick joke, it's as unexpected as if you were there talking to him in real life. That's something you can't replicate in a skit because, in a skit, the audience is always somewhat aware that these are just actors who are paid to say the lines some underpaid writer cooked up at 3 a.m. in a meth-fueled haze while locked in the basement of Lorne Michaels' crack house. It's similar to why Impractical Jokers is so funny, because they're actually saying these things to real-life people. Both of them make comedy in part by trying to overload one of your emotions. It's like when you feel one emotion so strongly that you just have to laugh, because it's just a natural response for some people to get that emotion out of their system. Commitment and juxtaposition work in tandem in Nathan's comedy. One boosts the other and vice versa. This is most apparent in the scenes where Nathan is left to his own devices. For instance, the scene in Nathan For You where he has to break free of handcuffs before a robot arm exposes him to a group of children, or the Captain Sully sequence in The Rehearsal. But in regard to the real people stuff, the comedy that comes from the regular awkward conversations Nathan has with others, it's worth noting that Nathan does not play a passive role in creating the comedy here. In fact, he uses these same aspects of commitment and juxtaposition to create comedy here as well. He's active in introducing absurd concepts, putting himself in unusual situations, editing out-of-context comments, and subtly steering conversations in the direction that will lead to an out-of-pocket moment. Take this scene for example. Here, Nathan is holding a funeral for his pet fly, which is a wild enough statement on its own. But during the service, he asks one of his interns to say a few words, with purposefully vague instructions. And well, the comedy writes itself.
It's not flying anymore because it's right there in the dirt.
Thank you.
While it's easy to assume that he just gets lucky by finding all these weird people, like the mall Santa with an extensive criminal record and rifle collection, I think if you recorded literally anyone for a week, you'd be able to cherry pick enough moments of awkwardness and stupidity to fill up half an hour of television. Half of the time, Nathan finds ways to put others in uncomfortable positions so they up and we can laugh at them. And the other half of the time, he uses his unthreatening demeanor to give people a sense of security and relaxation, so they feel more comfortable divulging personal information to him.
I just wish I waited a little bit longer till the kids got a little bit older.
Don't be fooled. He controls every aspect of every conversation, tricking the other person in the audience into thinking that an interaction was entirely unscripted, which it was scripted, just with extra steps. I think the premise of The Rehearsal gave more insight into Fielder's comedic process than one might initially think. This is one reason why Nathan is so able to stay in character, because he's very good at predicting how someone will react to him. But when the other person says something completely out of left field, that's when Nathan is tested the most, and it's usually the reason for his rare breaks in character. So yeah, Fielder is able to create comedy out of nothing, in part due to his unwavering commitment to the bit and his use of juxtaposition. These work with each other to create comedy. Just as a disclaimer, and not at all talking from experience, I would not recommend trying to replicate Nathan Fielder's comedy style, because what leads to a laugh for him might lead to a restraining order or a broken jaw for you. And that's all I got for you today. Have a good one.